And the answer to the question lies with the nervous system, which we talked about last week, and it's in that lesson in the coursework. What we get to know about is sensory receptors, motor receptors, all the different parts of the nervous system, because that will inform you, just inform though, that will inform you on what you need to then adopt as a skill, separate from knowledge, on how you touch with whatever type of manual touch you're offering in the types of sessions that you offer. Does that make sense? Yep. So whether you're manual or movement, you're still doing hands-on. Okay, great. So in calibrated touch, one of the things that I want to emphasize today that's different to the information I already offered, which is repeated, is that when folks are in pain, because that's where we're at, that's in our lane, when folks are in pain, their nervous system is now wired differently or acting differently. Let me be really clear. It's acting differently in its wiring than it acts when they're not in pain. Let me say it again. When someone's in pain, their nervous system is acting differently with its wiring than it acts when it's not in pain, when they're not experiencing pain. And that is the connection between the nervous system and the endocrine system as they are yoked in the hypothalamus. And your brain and your hormones are literally in concert with each other, and they are triggered in pain. They're also triggered in happiness and pleasure and things that feel good. So your chemical hormones, your chemicals and your hormones are like your best bartender. They're like serving up cocktails and changing your mood at every turn. So once you know the nervous system and you know how your person that you're in service to is calibrated for touch, which is based on the nervous system as a whole, the uniqueness of the person in front of you, and then you get to add another consideration, which is how much pain are they in and how long has the pain been there, because that's changed their nervous system. It just has. You guys can probably notice this, that last week, did anybody notice last week I was kind of pale on video? Did anybody notice that? Or you just all being nice? Well, I noticed it, and I was sitting in front of a window to try to get sunlight on my face because I could see that I was pale. I was in so much discomfort, and I had been for so long that it was literally changing my face, even though I was present and awake and obviously communicating. I've luckily, knock wood, had a few days where my pain level has dropped significantly. And now I'm in a room with only one window that doesn't actually have sunlight. It has sunlight coming in it, but it's a stained glass window, right? So the light is even more diffused. And even someone on my team, as soon as I logged onto the internet to meet with them, they said, "Oh my gosh, you look so much better. You look vibrant." Because that's what happens to our physical apparatus when we have the presence of pain or when we are in the absence of pain. It just changes everything, especially the nervous system. So as you learn about the nervous system and what that means about you and how much you touch or don't touch or how or what the reception is, then you get to learn about the person in front of you because that might be different. Some people like deep tissue massage, some people don't. Some people like the feel of wool sweaters, some people don't. Everybody's sensory receptors are different when they're working well. And then you get to add on the layer of when they're in pain, what the heck just happened here? And that's a different level of knowledge and a different level of skill. And some of that requires some delicacy, right? We talked about that last week about your nervous system being frayed. The other thing about it too is that your best point of entry is to be in a very parasympathetic state when you're in service to someone who's not. And when they're not, you're not the reason. So that was another thing that came up, like, "Oh, I'm really stressed and she triggered me," or "she this," or she, no, you don't trigger people. Their triggers are activated. It's not the same. So if you're one of the practitioners that tends to get a little bit of nervousness, a little bit of spook, you don't come with that authority that I want you to have, not authoritarian, but the authority of like, I know the nervous system. I know how this is being projected from my voice, and I also know how this might be being filtered by their receptors. When you can come with all of that and you have skill in how to navigate that, then you're more confident. But if you don't have skill in any one of those places, you'll be a little bit weird, and your client who's in pain will bark at you, and then it'll just be a whole thing. And then there's transference and countertransference, and you're both off to the races, and nobody helped anybody. And that is my loves. That is the rookie move from a practitioner. If you're navigating folks with pain, it requires sophistication from you in your knowledge and your skill and your implementation and your ability to assess in the moment. It's a constant learning. It's a constant learning. For example, one of the ideas that we go through, well, let me finish one thought and the sentence that goes with it. One of the ideas that we go through in our practitioner training in the Schatz method is we talk about operating systems. On a normal, good, pain-free day, folks take in information and communicate information differently. I took a lot of communication in college and ever since, because it's just so powerful. The word choices that we use, how we say them, it all matters. And you guys have heard me say that I recognized a lot about my teaching when I would get rushed for time and I would, like, the room would move, shift energy, and I didn't know what that was. So I started recording myself and I would listen. And every time I'd start to run out of time, my tone would change. But I wasn't recognizing that was happening. So I was creating the angst that I thought they were bringing, right? So you got to, like, know who's who. Are you bringing it or are they bringing it? Here's the answer. It's always you. It's always you, because you can't control anyone else. You can't make them triggered. You can't make them not triggered. All you can do is run you, and then they can only run them. Nobody's triggering them either. They're choosing to be triggered. So it's all a self game. But when folks are in pain, that doesn't compute. You're not even going to have that kind of a conversation with someone when in that much pain. You guys have probably recognized this, right? When someone's in great pain, someone you're in service to, or maybe a family member, and you're having just a regular conversation and they're really rubbed. Do you guys ever recognize? I just had a conversation with someone I deeply care about, and, like, nothing I was saying was getting through. It all just felt like pressure to them. And I was like, but why? I'm literally caring for you right now. Why is that pressure? Because the pain was masking what they could hear. And I still get to be responsible for that if I'm the communicator, and not get then doubly rubbed backwards and then let my triggers fly. So all that to say, when folks are in pain, if those are the folks that you're serving, and certainly if you're training with me, you are, that comes with sophistication. The way you communicate, the way it's being heard, how it's being interpreted. You can't control anybody's hearing, but you do get to be very advanced in what might be being translated, and then come with a follow-up so that you can connect in the middle and still be in service. So sometimes what I've heard early on in our Tuesday training days is, well, my client this and my client that. And you guys don't say that anymore. And I love it, because we put the kibosh on it and we just don't get to finger point at our client. Well, they came in really upset, or they didn't do their homework, or they wanted me to hang the moon, or whatever. Part of that is their pain talking. And it's still our responsibility to navigate all the flood that they bring without taking ourselves out of the game, so that you can actually be in service. And when you start blaming your client for how they're showing up, you've just basically said, I'm ill-equipped to help you. You haven't actually pointed out their behavior. You've just surrendered to your own skill or lack thereof. So just notice that when folks are in pain, the stakes are higher. You get to show up better than just book smart, way better. That's how you navigate them. That's how they